Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 290. And it's interesting, man, cause it's like since I've been single for a minute now, I've had people try to hook me up, friends, family, whatever it is. Gone out on a few dates, but nothing really ever stuck, right? And I'm gonna tell you why, man, because it's like I don't chase people. I don't I don't beg for attention. Um I don't think people are bad people. I really don't. I do think there are a lot of people out there that don't know what they want, or they're not fully healed, but they're running around telling people that they're healed. Or it's like it's like there's this one girl I know. She was saying to me the other day, oh yeah, like cause literally she says all her friends are basically married, right? And she's not married, and she's got a couple kids by two different dudes, and I'm like, honestly, nobody wants to deal with that. Straight up, it's like, and in my head, I'm like, nobody wants to deal with a person who makes bad decisions. And having two kids by two different dudes is a bad decision, because it is. I'm gonna be real with you. It's like, and I know I said this before, but having multiple kids by multiple different dudes is just as bad. Or matter of fact, it's worse than than the woman who was married to a dude who had a gang of kids, and now she's divorced. Because it's like, it's bad enough when you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 kids. And I know people who do have that many kids. But when you have that many kids, it's like, and it's like you start looking around, and it's like, yo, it's really not the other person, it's you. You know, it's not it's not necessarily 100% their fault, because it's like you're the one lying down, you're the one having kids with this person, and like you're doing X, Y, and Z. And it's true, because it's like at the end of the day, you got to be careful with what these women tell you too, because a lot of these women are broken, and like, but they'll sit there and say like, oh, I need an intentional man, I need X, Y, and Z, yada yada yada, boom 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 boom, and it's like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, if you would have actually looked around and seen what you had, you would have saw that you had an intentional guy. It wouldn't have been no second guessing, right? And I think that's where a lot of people get it screwed up at, is because they have this idea in their head of what they want the other person to be, and number one, it's not fair to the other person, and number two, it's like, why are you putting that onus on somebody else? You know, don't put that onus on somebody else. It's like, this is your responsibility. This is your opportunity to fix the situation. It's like perfect example that I use is like, because a lot of my friends have kids, and like, they're either in middle school, high school, or just graduated. I'm like, yo, it's like you can't discipline a kid who's 15, 16, 17 years old. At that point, he or she is showing you who they're gonna be, and once they show you who they are, then you better hope and pray that you raise them correctly, and like you raise them to be law-abiding citizens, because it's like, when you don't, you have the unfortunate, realization that the streets and the law is gonna take care of them before you can, or you can't sit there and like just hope and pray that your kid turns out great. You know, like you have to hold them accountable. You have to, like you have to discipline that. And sometimes it's like, I've had friends where I'm like, yo, it's like, there's nothing you can do for him or her. You got to call the cops. You know, at a certain point in time, it's like a lot of these kids, they're out of your hands. It's like, and as much as it sucks, because it does, you have to teach them that, like, yo, actions have consequences, and it's like, one of the consequences is you running into the law and like you doing X, Y, and Z, and you know, and when you don't vet the other individuals who you have kids with, that's another thing too. And I'm like, you know, it's always comical to me when like women get online and they talk about like how you know their man ain't doing this, their man ain't doing that, yada yada yada. And I'm like, okay, it's like the other day I was watching this clip on Tonight's Conversation, and the lady was trying to set it up, saying that that her husband was you know, had a committed infidelity, adultery, and whatnot, and come to find out that that guy had like an 11-year-old son, right? I don't know. I'm assuming the video was made sometime this year, you know, because you know she said she cut him off in 2014. It's 2026, so the kid's about to be 12, right? Or you know, my bad. The kid's like 10 or 11, you know, and so she's saying all this stuff, and then she let it slip that she cut him off, and because she was saying like, oh, like what do I do, X, Y, and Z, yada yada yada, you know, like. And like the panel was saying like, yo, okay, like you gotta kick him out the crib because like they're thinking it's a happy, healthy relationship, right? And mind you, like it's one of the women up there saying like, oh, okay, like if he cheat on you and like you've known about the infidelity, then yeah, you gotta move forward. And then one of the other guys, which I agree with, said like, oh, like context matters. And then that's when she said like, oh, I cut him off, you know, in 2014. And then and they were like, oh, well, how long has it been since since he got some from you? And she's like, you know, till now. So you cut him off in 2014, it's 2026, that's 12 years. Yeah, I would have cheated too. Straight up. I would have filed for divorce, I would have got separated, I would have did whatever. I mean, I take that back. I wouldn't have cheated, but I understand why why he would have cheated. You know, I would have filed for divorce or whatever it is because I'm not gonna be in a marriage where I can't get laid by my wife. You know, I'm not saying that she got to give it up, you know, every fucking day, but like, yo, it was like, you know, like 12 years. That's a long ass time because number one, that tells me that you're getting it from somewhere else, even if you're not getting it from me. And number two, why'd you cut him off? And like how she tried to frame it was crazy because she's over there thinking that you know, oh, I can just say whatever, boom, 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 boom. And but all the brothers on the panel were like, no, we need some context because nobody goes off and just cheats, you know, that long ago without having a legitimate reason as to why. And then when she slipped up and when she told them that, it made sense. And like all the women on the panel were like, yo, what the fuck? It's like, how are you gonna withhold sex from this guy for that long and then get upset when he moves forward? I mean, because honestly, it's like, at the end of the day, it's like if you're withholding sex, then the relationship is over. You know, the relationship is dead. It's not even on life support. Like if there's nothing there for you, you know, in terms of in terms of the physical, then what are you doing? You're just roommates at that point. Like it's idiotic to sit there and think that, oh yeah, it's because like we're married, X, Y, and Z, yada yada yada. Like you still gotta remain faithful. No, not if you're out there painting yourself as the victim. Not if you're out there, turning them down for sex. Not if you're out there doing X, Y, and Z. Because it's like, who wants to be in a relationship like that where, the wife is denying them, And for a man, it's like, for us, it's always going to be physical touch, you know, because a plethora of different reasons, right? But it's like, that's how most men communicate. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, some men are really good at using their words, you know, but most of us, I say about 95% of us men, we communicate through physical touch. So, and it is what it is. And I think that's the most important thing, because like I said, without the actual physical part of the relationship, there is no romantic relationship. You know, I got homegirls I've known since fucking high school. I've never thought about sleeping with them. Never. You know, not that they're not attractive, because they are, but it's like that thought has never crossed my mind. You know, but once you throw into fact that once you throw in the fact that of once you throw in, you know, the physical aspect of it, that's a different relationship. You know, it's like, and it's crazy to me how people will not think about that, and like, you watch how fast a relationship, you know, a romantic relationship, you know, dissolves, or you watch how fast, you know, marriages fall apart, because it's like, oh, it's like, again, it goes back to me saying, it's like, if we're not getting it from you, we're gonna get it from somebody else, you know. And it's crazy how women will sit there and say all this asinine shit, and I'm like, you realize if you would have just gave me attention that he wanted, he would have been happy, right? And we don't mean sexually, like we mean like, hey babe, but you let's go to the movies, let's do X, Y, and Z, you know, or you know, if you guys got kids, you know, like, hey, like, let's go get a babysitter or whatever, you know, if your kids are young, you know, or whatever it is. It was like, let's just go out to dinner, just me and you, you know. You know, the shit that we used to do before, you know, we had kids. And it's like, I think a lot of people, and this is from a single guy's perspective looking in, and you don't know what you have until you lose it. And when you lose it, it's like, okay, and when you lose it, you're sitting there thinking at it like, oh well, you know, it's gonna come back, it's gonna be X, Y, and Z. No, it's not. You know, I had a former friend of mine, and I've talked about her in previous podcasts, like, you know, years ago, previous podcast episodes years ago, and we was talking about her divorce, or like, I, I I don't know why, but that, for whatever reason, that came up. And so when that came up, I was like, and she was telling me X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's unfortunate that he cheated, you know, and you know, like, that's why you got divorced, because I just automatically assumed that she got divorced because of infidelity, because she would always bring that up. And then so when she brought that up, and then she goes, well, like, she goes, well, I didn't get divorced because of infidelity with you. I got divorced because I wasn't happy. And I'm like, okay, but how did you find out that he was cheating on you then, right? Because I'm trying to figure out, what the situation is. And then that's when she told me that, oh, well, like, I guess the girl he was seeing at the particular time, she showed up to one of the court hearings. And that's when she found out that he was, quote unquote, cheating on her. And when I had to break it down to him, like, yo, he wasn't cheating on you. He's like, he was legally separated from you. Like, he's allowed to date who he wants to date. Just because he's going through a separation and a divorce hearing doesn't mean he can't date, because, you know, he's already legally separated. The marriage is dissolved. It's just not finalized. You know, and she was like, wait, what? I was like, yeah. It's like, so you're walking around telling people he did X, Y, and Z. In reality, he wasn't even doing none of that. You know, he was out here living his best life. He found somebody that he wanted to be with, somebody that, you know, wanted him, somebody who didn't paint themselves as the victim. And it's like, you're still sitting there years later telling people that, oh yeah, you know, he cheated on me, when you just told me something completely different. I was like, you can't cheat on somebody that you're, legally, separated from. And the fact that you filed for something, under a different terminology means a totally different thing. So, and I think that's the most interesting thing too, is like when people will leave certain things out, and then when you leave it out, and it's like, and then it finally comes to the light, you're like, okay, but why? Like, I don't understand that. What's the point of doing all that? Because it really doesn't make any sense. Um, Regardless of what people tell you, regardless of what people may think, that they know what's going on, and like they really don't. Um, People move differently for different reasons. And it's always interesting too when people want to sit there and and want to pretend that like the situation that that they're in isn't the situation that they're in because of themselves. And you really can't, sit there and you can't sit there and blame the other person, man. It's like it goes back to the IG video where the guy's talking about his grandmother. The grandmother's telling him stay away from these fast ass girls, these broken women, and it's true. A lot of these girls, they're not worth your time. You know, the ones that sit there and complain about how every guy that they've been with, has done them wrong is not worth your time. And it's honestly, straight up, it's sad. It's sad, and it's like, and then you sit there, and then you see all that, and you're like, yo, it's like it's not even remotely true with what's going on. And it's like, the situation was what it was, and in reality, yes, like it does suck, 100%. Um, and but it's also your fault for staying put in that situation too. Um, I've I've seen people talk about their issues, and I've seen like their friends and whatnot too, male and female, tell them, yo, if it was really that bad, then why'd you stay? Why'd you continue to complain about the situation? Because you're still complaining about said situation, and you put yourself in that situation. Like, you married a guy, like y'all had kids, whatever it is. You had, problem after problem, and you had more kids on top of that. It's like, at the end of the day, it's not even funny at this point. It's not. It's it shows your lack of discernment. It shows a lack of common sense. It shows a lack of critical thinking. It shows a lack of having judgment. Um, it shows a lack of you not vetting an individual to make sure that he or she is the right person for you. Because the worst thing you can do is sit there and have a relationship with somebody who isn't who they say they are. You know, and in the grand scheme of things, it sucks. It really does. But you can't sit there and play victim when you're an active participant. You know, and what's wild to me is like these women will sit there and say shit and do shit and play victim and all that stuff. Like, I've had this is years ago, but I was talking to this one girl, and like we was texting back and forth, yada yada yada, and and I remember, and mind you, we were just talking, and then she had the nerve to ask me for money for her nails and hair, and I'm like, why? Why are you asking me to finance you? Like, that's personal upkeep. And I was like, I'm not doing that because, number one, I'm not dating you, and number two, I barely even know you. I talked to this chick for like maybe like a month and a half, and that was it. And And like that's the most disheartening thing too, because like you end up having to deal with this individual, or like you see how they moving, and it's like, yo, it's like this is not something I want to deal with. And I remember she said like, well, I can go get it from somebody else. And okay, then why aren't you? She was like, what? I was like, yeah. Why aren't you getting it from somebody else? Go get that from somebody else. If you got it like that, you wouldn't be bothering me. You know? And she was like, what? I was like, yeah. He's like, you say you can go get it from somebody else, right? Go get it from somebody else. Like, please don't stop, you know, and try to finesse me, try to do X, Y, and Z with me, because it's not gonna work. You know, it's weird that people would do that, especially women. Like women will do that, and then like sit there and be like, "Oh, what you mean?" Yeah, it's like no. Like you said, you can get it from somebody else, right? Go get it from somebody else. And it's always comical when people say like, "Oh well, like I'm looking for a replacement." I'm like, the guy that you're looking to replace has already replaced you. You know, it's a cold game though, man. And it's like, you know, and it's also funny to me because when women say that, it's like, oh, it's like you really out there thinking that you're the prize, huh? You know, you really out there thinking that that your shit don't stink. And one of my partners told me, he's like, bro, if you're getting left, or the other person is constantly getting left, and they're complaining about getting left, then what does that tell you? I mean, that tells you one thing, that they're the issue. Because if you're constantly getting left, then maybe you got to work on yourself. You know, maybe you got to figure out, what's going on with you, because it's pretty obvious as to why it's not working out. It's pretty obvious. And I think I think to me that's the crazy part, because it's crazy to me because people will sit there and be like, oh, well, X, Y, and Z, yada, 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 whoop-de-whoop. And it's like, no, it's not because of this or because of that. It's because of the situations you put yourself into. And when you do that, and when you sit there and you play with some of these emotions and their feelings in their head, you have a tendency to make the worst version of themselves come out. And a lot of people will sit there and be like, oh, I didn't mean to do X, Y, Z, but you did it though. You know, like you torpedoed the fuck out of that situation, man. It's like, again, going back to my former friend, I was like, yo, it's like, I think it's kind of weird how in every situation you're in, like you're the victim. I think that is so weird because nobody can be the victim that many fucking times. And she was like, wait, what? I was like, yeah. It's like nobody can be the victim in that many situations and that many that many instances. It can't, you know. And when you have a befuddling type of mentality or confusing type of mentality, is like you don't really see what you're doing, but everybody else sees sees what you're doing, sees how you're moving, and it's like, why would they want to be around that? Why would they want to be around somebody who just doesn't know how they're moving or doesn't care how they're moving? And it's just weird because it goes back to what I'm saying in the very beginning about dealing with these broken women. It's like, gotta leave women where they at, man. It's like, if somebody tells you, oh, I don't know what I want, or X, Y, and Z, just leave them alone. Just leave them alone. You know? And never be afraid to downgrade somebody. Hell, I've had girlfriends who are now acquaintances. We're not strangers. We're just acquaintances. And if And if I run into them somewhere, you know, somewhere in town or whatever it is, I'll be like, hey, what's up? How you doing? You know? I'm like, nah. And it's like, my thing simply is that. It's like, stop holding on to friendships or relationships with these broken ass people when you're better than that. You know, when it's like, you shouldn't be the one always reaching out, always, always doing a checking in, always doing X, Y, and Z. Because yeah, I get it. People are busy, you know. Excuse me. You know, life gets busy. People have careers, they have kids, they have all this other shit going on, right? But at the end of the day, it's simply this: invest in people, pour into people who are your people, who do the same. Like, stop thinking that, oh, it's X, Y, and Z when it's not. You know, stop thinking, oh yeah, well, like he or she's, you know, is always too busy to respond because X, Y. Like, no, it's not that. It's that they don't, you know, you're more of a friend to them than they are to you. And I've had to break it down to people too, and I'm like, yo, it's like, you want to know why X, Y, and Z is happening? Because so and so is, you know, you're more of a friend to them than they are to you. And these people want to be like, what? I was like, think about it. Why would somebody sit there and always come through for you when they know that they don't have to? But whenever they need something, they're the first person that, you know, that they call is you. Why is that? Because they know that you're gonna drop whatever you got going on to help them, even if nobody is there to help you. And to wrap this all up, it's just it's sad, man. It's sad how people don't want to recognize that. It's sad how people just don't want to come to terms with the fact that some of your friends only know you as a friend because you're their friend, not their friend. I'm gonna say it again. Some of these people only know you as a friend because you're their friend. You're not their friend. So stop pouring into these broken ass people. Leave people where they at. And understand it's okay to let a relationship die. It's okay to let a friendship die. You know? Because like I said, majority of people, they're not your friends. You're just their friend. Alright, y'all. This is about 28 minutes of your life that y'all won't get back. Hope y'all keeping the 4 P's. Private player, positive pushing. I'll see y'all next week, Sunday. I love y'all. And like I always say, know your worth because you're better than what you are. Alright, y'all. Have a good Sunday. Peace.